For more on the situation in Venezuela, John Otis reports on Venezuela and Colombia for NPR, joins us now via Skype from Bogota, Colombia. Tell me, how significant is this? I know you're working on a story now. The border crossing, we've seen or heard of hundreds, if not thousands, of people wanting to get across that border to just get basic goods.
Well, yes, it is quite significant news for desperate Venezuelans because when you had these border bridges blocked, they were actually blocked with shipping containers, so people couldn't get across the bridges, but they would still get into Colombia and they would have to use these clandestine footpaths used by drug smugglers. These are rival smuggling gangs, and there'd often be shootouts along these trails, so it was quite dangerous. And also, Venezuelans trying to get across to the Colombian side, they'd have to cross the Tachita River, which forms the border. I was up there recently, and they'd be wading across the river, up to their chest in water. I met one woman who was bringing her son across the border, across the river, and she was bringing him across the border to go to a daycare center on the Colombian side. She had to cross the river once to drop her son off, then go back to the Venezuelan side to work. She'd cross again in the afternoon to pick up her son, and then come home in the evening. So that was 4 times crossing the river. So you could see just how tough it can get to get into Colombia with those borders officially closed, but now they're opening up again.
Now, these are Venezuelans that have opted to stay there, but there has been an outflow of Venezuelans leaving the country over the past couple of years now.
That's correct. The latest figures from the UN show that 4 million Venezuelans have left the country. Most of those just in the last 4 years. The UN is calling it, the biggest exodus in recent Latin American history. And these are Venezuelans of all stripes, from professionals to, gas station attendants to, students looking for a better life. And they've actually become another major lifeline for Venezuelans who are back in Venezuela, because people back in Venezuela really depend on US dollars coming back into the country to deal with hyperinflation and the high cost of living there.
Given that situation, I know you had a chance to speak with Juan Guaido when you were on your reporting trip. What does he think is possible?
Well, when I spoke to Guaido, the opposition forces that he represents were involved in negotiations in Norway with the government of Nicolas Maduro, but there wasn't much progress being made, and Guaido sounded kind of down and out on the whole process. Neither side really wants to back down. The opposition is saying, Nicolas Maduro must leave office so we can hold free elections, and Maduro saying, I'm not going anywhere. And he's got the military is still strongly supporting Maduro. And so it's a real stalemate right now. Guaido is calling for more street protests. He keeps calling on Maduro to leave office. He's trying to convince military leaders to turn against Maduro. But even if they did, if there was some kind of a military coup in Venezuela, there's no guarantee that would result in some kind of a democratic government. You might have a situation, say, as in Egypt, where the military just takes over and maintains control.
Right. So what happens in the interim? I mean, he has his supporters. It doesn't seem to be forcing change. It's been months now. How long does he think he can continue?
The Maduro government doesn't seem particularly interested in arresting Guaido, because if they would have wanted to, they could have already. Guaido has been barnstorming the country since January, when he claimed that Nicolas Maduro is an illegitimate president because of fraud in last year's presidential election. He's getting a lot of support as he goes around the country. A lot of people have been coming out to see him, and he does provide a kind of ray of hope for most Venezuelans who really don't like their current government and all, and they want Maduro to leave. But still, he's not really showing the way out.
Yeah.
He hasn't been able to, he wasn't able to get humanitarian aid into the country. He hasn't been able to convince the military to turn against Maduro. So as this stalemate goes on, he's likely to lose some of that popular support that he currently enjoys.
All right. John Otis joining us via Skype from Bogota, Colombia tonight. Thanks so much.
Thank you.